Hey everyone. If you're a member of the Patreon, you've probably already seen the post, but this is going to be our last episode for season 2. I'm sure you've heard the amazing news about Quentin and Fincher teaming up for the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Roger and I are also back working on projects. So, instead of taking an extended hiatus, we have decided to end the season here. There's still content coming through even though the main episodes are taking a pause. Think random odds and ends like video vaults, outtakes, and questions that you've all sent in. There's also that free video recording of our live episode available on patreon.com/video archives. But for now, please sit back and enjoy the episode. On the season 2 finale of the Video Archives podcast, Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary take you on the stage in The King and I. In The King and I, a widowed governess travels to Siam to tutor the wives and children of the stubborn king. She expects a challenge, but what she doesn't expect is to fall in love. Quentin and Roger talk about the chemistry between Brynner and Deborah Kerr, the colorful stagecraft of the film, and the moments they just can't get enough of, etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. Then, we're off to the high seas with the Black Swan. A pirate adventure, Quentin and Roger discuss their feelings on Tyrone Power, Maureen O'Hara's star power and character, and the difference between a land or sea-based swashbuckler. Lastly, we're in the Wild West in 1932's The Golden West. I'll let the guys tell you about this one. I'm your girl, Gala Avary, and joining us now, here is Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary.
Thank you, Gala, and kill the Bacalov. This is Quentin Jerome Tarantino.
And Roger Roberts Avary.
And we're here with the Video Archives podcast. So, starting off in our 3 movies on this episode, we have not done a movie in this genre, not a proper movie in this genre. The closest we came is when we watched The Apple. decided not to do it, even though I really do like one of the songs on The Apple. I like the first song, and I like the speed song. All right, but we decided not to do The Apple, so she did it with our resident expert, Mark. The point being is we've never done a musical. And when we did a musical, I wanted it to be a proper musical, not Jesus Christ Superstar. Well, that's a proper musical, but you know what I mean.
There's nothing more.
No, that's a great musical, but not a 70s style.
When you speak of proper, you're talking Rodgers and Hammerstein, obviously.
Well, exactly. So the movie we're doing is Walter Lang's widescreen, actually CinemaScope 55 version of Roger and Hammerstein's The King and I, starring Brynner and Deborah Kerr.
Who is king here? I remind you, so you remember that. I do not remember any promises. I do not remember anything, except that you are my servant.
No, Your Majesty, that is not true. I am most certainly not your servant. Your Majesty, I beg of you, don't take revenge on this girl. This girl hurt your vanity, that is all. She didn't hurt your heart. You have no heart.
I've had a pull for a while for us to do it because, one, we're big Brynner fans.
I mean,
all right,
yeah, with good reason.
Huge Brynner fans. Even though you guys didn't like Light at the Edge of the World, we appreciated Brynner. But The King and I, one, it's at the top of these Broadway-based 50s smash musicals, so that's one. But also, I haven't seen it. And I love Brynner. So if I love Brynner, how come I've never seen like his most signature role? But then, when it comes to Laserdisc, I don't have the Video Archives collection. All right, their puny, paltry collection that you keep bragging about.
Tightly kept and well maintained. Collection.
It's well curated collection. Austerely curated
the
collection.
Finest of the finest Laserdiscs of the time.
A few people, especially Stacey Scher, my old producing partner, one of my best friends.
Producer of Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. And later Django and Hateful Eight. When they got rid of their Laserdisc machine, when they disconnected their Laserdisc machine and they had all these wonderful Laserdiscs that they spent the 90s building their collection, everybody just gave them to me. But Stacy's collection was particularly good. And so I have and some of them are still wrapped, but I have that too. I just watched At Sword's Point the other day, and it was like completely unopened from Laser Blazer. It was like cost me $49 on sale. So I'm going through Stacy's Laserdisc, and I find this gorgeous CBS Fox special widescreen edition of the Laserdisc of King and I, and it's actually one of the more beautiful Laserdiscs in the collection, and Laserdiscs are genuinely beautiful.
Yeah.
But the CBS Fox ones are just really on a different level. I mean, for what the Criterions try to do, they do effortlessly.
Oh, this is the year when they're making like, I don't know, Die Hard or something.
Yeah.
And they are like embracing the format fully, and
The Longest Day is
The
like
Longest
another
Day, and
one.
they're taking all their great titles.
Yeah.
They're beautiful titles. They're well-beloved titles, and they're giving them all the perfect treatment, and this is a great example of that.
With the size and the feel and the weight of a double soundtrack album, but with the ornate beauty of a program that you would get for The King and I if you saw it at the Radio City Music Hall during its opening engagement.
They figured out early on that, you're not just collecting the movie, you're collecting the media.
Yeah.
That we are fetishistic as film goers, and that we love to have a beautiful edition of something. Mm-hmm. And as their catalog branding goes, this is some of the best. It just invites you to explore prior to watching the movie, or while you're watching the movie. Even.
And if you already think the movie itself is this glittering, sparkling object that you want to own, then this is just like the best personification of the glittering, sparkling Christmas present quality of it. There was a time when Broadway was alive. It wasn't just a thing that tourists who were in New York did while they were in New York. It was alive, and there were serious plays and there were big musical plays. And the thing about it was, this happens every 8 years or so that a show becomes a big deal that everyone's talking about. Hamilton, it happened. Yeah, Hamilton. It happened with the Book of Mormon.
But they haven't made Hamilton into a movie, have they?
Yeah, they did some like live production of it.
Which is a little different.
It's completely different.
And but what's interesting, as you were talking about this, I was thinking about recent efforts like La La Land or Barbie, mm-hmm. which have attempted to be musicals in a kind of classical sense.
Yeah.
Even Barbie, and I'm speaking about it in how it tries to embrace.
It does
in a classical sense. But neither of those pre-existed on Broadway. They didn't take a route from Broadway.
They pre-existed as a toy. But you're right. But the thing is, for the 50s and the first half of the 60s, and I mean like deep into the 60s. What the superhero genre is today, the big musical, usually based on a big Broadway play, that was the money-making blockbuster genre of the 50s and most of the 60s. That was the grail. That was what most people sitting around thinking about movies thought about them. And when they thought about a big blockbuster, it was like the names of musicals that you threw around. And when they hit, like something like My Fair Lady, or Sound of Music, that was the mother lode. Because like My Fair Lady will play for like 3 years. Sound of Music will play for 3 years and gross every fucking year during its time. That was what everyone was going for. And the way that musicals eventually imploded at the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, is what a lot of people are waiting to happen to the superhero movies and waiting, when will that happen? It will happen when when like 4 different movies will spend $1 billion on a superhero movie, and it's a disaster.
And no one cares,
And it's a disaster. But not only is it a disaster that the parade has moved on.
Well, you described something really interesting about this movie and this kind of movie, which is it exists almost as like 2.5D instead of 3D, in that what you're being given is not fully a movie, it's a movie. But you're watching like partly stage play. You have the best seats in the house. You are sitting there and it's a lush, beautiful, perfect presentation of the play, but it's still a movie. You still have close-ups. You still have movement of the camera.
That is absolutely part of it. And that is absolutely where The King and I is coming from. And where a few different movies came from. in this regards.
Like Sound of Music, which is also Rogers and Hammerstein, doesn't do that.
No. They make it a movie.
There are moments in the house, especially when you're in their mansion, where it feels a touch of that, but they're definitely letting go of what this does, which is much more artifice, stage artifice. The floor feels like a stage.
No, in
that they're dancing.
Oh, absolutely. Films done in this style would be Carousel, another Rogers and Hammerstein thing, and Oklahoma, another Rogers and Hammerstein thing. But you have to,
Oklahoma, even though it has exterior scenes, it feels like you're watching a stage.
Even the exterior scenes are kind of blown out in a surreal, theatrical kind of way. Yeah,
they're holding on to the vernacular of theater.
They're holding on to the artifice.
Yeah,
I like that actually, because I mean, one of the things that happened back then is big Broadway show happens and it's a smash, and now all of America is talking about it. But all of America can't see it.
Yeah, not everybody lives in New York or even close to a theater that would be playing.
And you still have to get tickets and actually get.
If you're lucky, it'll come through the state capitol.
Well, eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
But not with Yul Brynner. If you want to see it with Yul Brynner, which is what you want to do.
Yeah.
All right. No, you have to go to New York and you have to see it and you have to get tickets for it. And he's going to probably be in it for a year and a half. But for a year and a half, while you're hearing about this thing, only as many people that can come into a given performance can ever see it. Then, after a year and a half of playing on Broadway, he will leave and start doing movies. And then there'll be the tour. And then another
Joe Schmokin takes over the role.
He can be really cool too.
No, I mean, it could be a great actor.
It's just not Yul Brynner.
Yeah, it's not Yul Brynner.
It's not, in the case of Streetcar Named Desire, you had a year and a half to see Marlon Brando. All right. Then he left and then they kept it going. Probably be interesting to see who replaced Yul Brynner when he left King and I. But when Brando left Streetcar, it was Ralph Meeker.
Oh, wow. Actually, that would be kind of good.
It would be fantastic with the rest of the cast. So Carl Malden, Kim Hunter, Jessica Tandy.
Now, was Ralph Meeker the understudy?
No.
He just came on. They were like, we got Ralph Meeker to step in.
He's the star of Picnic, all right? He's the other big, sweaty wife beater guy. And it was Anthony Quinn who played Stanley Kowalski on the tour. Mm. So now you live in Chicago. Now you live in Knoxville or Nashville or whatever. Now you live in exactly. And now you see the tour and
coming through Stockton, for 2 weeks.
But then Hollywood does the movie version. All right, with the original star, and teamed with a movie star. All right, to do it, and that's where most of the public who has been hearing about The King and I for 2 years straight about how great it is and how great Yul Brynner is in the performance, that's when they get to see it. And so in something like The King and I, they could really easily turn it into like a normal movie because it's set up for that. But they don't want to. They want to show you Roger and Hammerstein's The King and I, which means they make it as close to sitting in the best seat in the house, in the biggest theater on the planet Earth you could ever have.
With the most perfect presentation.
Yeah. And ultimately, as far as a movie is concerned, I think it's really windy by the time it gets to the end. But that whole first act, that whole first 25 minutes, that is the presentation of this at its finest, is perfect. It's everything I kind of want it to be. I felt it was 1954 or 53, and I'm sitting in the best seat in the house watching Yul Brynner just kill it.
Man, especially in that dinner scene.
Yeah.
Like when he's putting on the best of everything he can do for his visiting dignitaries. Mm-hmm. And the movie takes on, it's already a delicious looking movie, a beautiful looking movie. All of the sets are gorgeous. All of the production design is absolutely amazing. But then suddenly they put on this dinner and it's like
it's sublime.
It's sublime. It's every woman who ever wanted to see the stage play's fantasy to go to.
Me, I'm that woman. Yes. I'm sitting in the,
and it's their husbands too, because they all want to be Yul Brynner.
Absolutely.
Because he's so masculine and he's so strong. You know,
has there ever been a more masculine leading man, the star of a musical?
No. I'll just say it. No.
Yeah.
No. Let's read the back of the box.
Okay.
Or the back of the
Laserdisc
sleeve. The film contained on this Laserdisc is being presented for your enjoyment in the widescreen format or letterboxed, allowing you to experience the film at home as closely to the original version as possible. The story.
God, let's step in here. He's reading the whole fucking thing.
I'm reading the whole fucking thing. I've only just read it. The story. It's what's on the back.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the chapter?
No.
I'll do the chapter stops as well if you like. Boasting an unforgettable Rodgers and Hammerstein's score and superb production values, the screen adaptation of The King and I won 5 Academy Awards and is considered one of the all-time greats among musicals. As the New York Times proclaimed on June 29th, 1956, and I quote, "If you don't go to see it, believe us, you'll be missing a grand and moving thing."
I'm sure that was Bosley Crowler.
Yeah, a grand and moving thing. Based on a true account, this tender story follows the adventures of a high-spirited Englishwoman who travels to Siam to become the teacher confidant to the king and his many children. The King and I will take you on an exotic journey, weaving a tapestry of emotions from forbidden love to a potentate's poignant struggle to adapt himself to a changing world, to a woman's indignance, turning to eventual admiration for a man with different values than her own. Right up to its unexpected climax, the movie never loses sight of its vibrant humor and touching humanity. At first, the headstrong Anna, Deborah Kerr, and her arrogant employer clash on everything. As the brusque yet brave monarch who desperately wishes to westernize his country, the king, Brynner, is nevertheless appalled by a mere woman daring to behave as his equal. Gradually, though, a warm attachment and respect develop between them. When the king learns that Queen Victoria has been informed he is a barbarian, he relies on Anna to help him out of the crisis. Together, they pull off a many-splendored gala affair for the benefit of the visiting British diplomatic mission. However, this success is temporarily diminished by an occurrence which leaves the king battling his barbaric nature. Musical highlights include Getting to Know You and Shall We Dance? Shall We Dance?
Bum, bum, bum.
Hello, Young Lovers, and I Whistle a Happy Tune. All conducted by the inspired skills of Alfred Newman and performed with all the soaring memorability of the acclaimed Broadway version. Tiptum, Rita Moreno, and Lun Tha, Carlos Rivas, the pair of star-crossed lovers.
By the way, the back of this box is reminding me of the movie now. All right? I was so into it at the beginning.
And you get exhausted by it.
And then I just get exhausted. Naming the actors in the subplot I don't give a fuck about is just, I've lost my complete erection.
I think this is winning the award for the longest back of the box in history.
Well, this is almost done. Tiptum, Rita Moreno, and Lunta, Carlos Rivas, the pair of star-crossed lovers, Lady Tiang, Terry Saunders, the king's compassionate headwife, and the Kralahome, Martin Benson, lend shining support. The King and I is, as Variety reported on July 4th, 1956, undoubtedly the best celluloid rendition of a Rodgers and Hammerstein creation. Academy Awards 1956 include Best Actor, Brynner, Best Art Direction, Color,
Right on.
by Lyle R. Wheeler and John
the
DeCuir.
famous Lyle R. Wheeler, the Wheeler
Set
family.
decorations, Color. They actually, I think, separated color versus black and white
they
awards.
They did
back then.
They did back then.
Walter M. Scott and Paul S. Fox. Best Costume Designs, Color, Irene Sharaff. Best Sound Recording, 20th Century Fox Sound Department and Carl Faulkner. Best Scoring of a Musical Picture, Alfred Newman and Ken Darby. 133 minutes, color, stereo, surround, rated G, 1956, catalog number 1004/85.
I don't know what they were up against, but I would actually applaud 90% of those Academy Awards. Everything it won an Academy Award for, the things you would imagine. Basically, the king of Siam, Yul Brynner, wants to modernize his country. And so he's got something like 150 kids, but he's got at least like 30 that are like first generation, like straight from the approved wives.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting in the movie because early on, you think he's going to put Deborah Kerr in with his harem.
Yeah, in with his harem.
Which is very funny. It's a very funny idea. And she thinks the same thing too. And there's a lot of comedy because she's got such a stick up her bum. And got the son that she's trailing around.
She has no right to be to have such a stick up her bum, as you said.
Well, she's just British, all right?
Yeah.
You know,
she's in a situation,
she's
though.
white and British, all right?
She's in a situation, though. Her husband has died.
Yeah.
She's tagging along with a kid. She's got to, like, find a situation.
But you get in that room and you realize, oh, no, that's not his harem. That's his wife's boudoir. He just has that many wives.
Yeah.
They're all wives, all right? You know, there's the sister wife number 1 that bosses all the other wives around.
She's the head wife.
She's the head wife.
In charge of them all.
He wants a proper British governess to come and teach his children in the palace proper British history and a proper Western history.
Etcetera, etcetera, etcetera.
Etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. That shows that Siam is in a different place. It's a nation amongst other nations, and we're not backwards. We're not a bunch of barbarians. We're not a bunch of people living in trees coming up with folklore. And so, well, when you get a proper British governess who actually understands history and understands proper high society and English and is coming from a proprietorial place where she thinks that her white civilization is more civilized and it's coming from a stronger backing, you're going to have friction. But she cannot deny the magnetism and the dynamism of Yul Brynner's king. And she's not such an empire buffoon that she can see that in Siam, he is a magnificent king. He holds things together. There is such a thing about being a ruler, not the ruler of the mind or what you wish something would be, but for the country he has and for the forces he has to marshal and for what he has to do. He is the king. He is the perfect king for this era. He's keeping this area of the world together.
Well, you know, what you're talking about is the actual history of that it's based on, which is actually truly remarkable. Mm-hmm. He's the son of Rama II, who was himself kind of a progressive and well-beloved king.
And literally, we have to say, it's the type of a culture where the king is a god among men. He's not a man, he's a god.
Absolutely. And this takes place in, 1868.
40 years after Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, that's right. Siam is the one country of Southeast Asia that resisted colonialism. Mm-hmm. And largely because of him. And he very skillfully navigated while Britain, France, and the other colonial powers were taking over countries.
He's able to resist the empire builders, but then exist inside of. He gets enough respect that he's able to negotiate inside of the empire,
which is largely because of his son, Chulalongkorn, who literally was the one who abolished slavery, instituted all of the policies of education.
That's all serious in the movie. So
all of that is real. They do, some historians dispute the relationship with the governess, but she's a real person. Yeah. She was really there.
And she wrote the book.
There may not have been this undercurrent of romance between them, but then again, there could have been.
There could have been, yeah. It's all unrequited. Yeah.
It's all unrequited, and it's actually deeper that they never fully. Their relationship is so energetically charged, especially the way Yul Brynner plays the king with this extreme masculinity and nobility.
It's all those things
and humor.
It's all those things you just said, but with also this ferocious stagecraft.
God, it's funny you say her ferocious because I wrote down ferocious as part of the dance that they do, the Shall We Dance, when they're doing Shall We Dance, and there's that moment where there's two pieces of music in this that I like. And
Yeah.
the rest of the songs, to be honest, I don't like
them at all.
Yeah, I don't really get into.
I don't like them.
Whistle a happy tune.
I don't like them at all.
Yeah, I really don't like the songs. But there's two in here. One was "Getting to Know You."
Well, of course,
it's a catchy tune.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be a 23andMe commercial song, "Getting to Know You," like the girl's going around checking her DNA journey. And the other one was "Shall We Dance?" And there's that lead up in "Shall We Dance" where she's kind of beginning singing. And he's seen her dancing with the other British guys. When he's doing the slow
panther.
walk. Yes.
When he's doing the panther stalk. All right,
I've never seen another actor who's more cat-like.
He almost seems like an anime character come to life.
Almost like an anime character. You know,
especially in that opening
Gala
scene.
will know this. We had this cat that died recently, was eaten by a coyote. And this cat was almost like a breeder cat. And I don't breed cats, but we just ended up with him. Mm-hmm. And he was the most magnificent creature. He was noble and like
noble.
The only thing I can describe is that watching Yul Brynner was like watching my cat, and I was almost in tears watching Yul Brynner. And part of it is his humor and his childlike playfulness, and his commanding presence, his obvious physical excellence. And when he does that little walk, that cat walk, where he's literally moving in slow motion and his whole body is active in that moment. Every single muscle is engaged as he's walking. And then suddenly he starts dancing. I wrote down ferocious. Like, and especially when they stop dancing, just holding hands, when he puts his hand on her.
He does they do the bouncing waltz. All right.
Yeah, they do that.
Dun, dun,
it's like a polka. It's like a polka.
It's a polka.
And he's singing 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and like he never says four. And it's great. And then at the end of it, that ferocious dance, it's as sexual as one could imagine a dance can be. And it's the fantasy I would imagine of every woman in the 1950s who took their husband to go see this movie, to see masculine Yul Brynner taking control in that dance and dancing like with full strength, like a god. And then when he puts after they finished and she's basically, had her breath taken away, and they're sitting there and he's staring at her, and it's almost, that's the moment where they would normally have the kiss. He says, "Come, we do it again." Again. And it's like, okay,
that's what they can do. And look, Ernest Lehman, who wrote it, he's probably considered one of the five. He would definitely considered one.
He wrote the stage dialogues.
Yeah. He's the one who adapted it into a movie, and he's and when it comes to screenwriters, when you judge the movies made of their screenplays, Ernest Lehman is in the top 5. North by Northwest. I mean, it's just every fucking movie you can ever fucking think of. All right. Seems like he took a pass through
the Akiva Goldsman of his time.
Yeah. The thing about the movie that works 100% all the way through it is the sparring contest between the governess and the king. The first act couldn't be better. Then they have to make it into a movie, and then they have a wider story to tell, and they're not really prepared to tell the wider story because the juice is in the confrontation scenes between the governess and the king. And everything else that happens is just to underscore where they're coming from for the next sparring scene. And so then from that point on, I just lurched from one sparring scene to the next. But the sparring scenes always work. One, because Deborah Kerr is just perfectly cast in this. I'm not a big Deborah Kerr fan, but she's perfect for this role. He's so magnificent and dynamic. But what makes it work is the fact that, and it's actually kind of cute when you think about it, they're both superior over the other one. He's a king. He's a god on earth. She's a school teacher. What the fuck does she know? Well, she's supposed to know something. She's a school teacher, but she's not a king. She doesn't have the responsibility of millions of people. She's not running a country. She's a fucking school teacher that I can hire and fire.
But she's the master of her domain, which is education.
And she comes, well, I'm a school teacher and I've come from the empire and I know what things really are. And this is...
I'll show you a map of the world.
They both come from this superior attitude towards the other, and then they both find a way. but they're both intrigued by the other one. But I like the idea that even when he's talking like God on earth with her at the beginning, she's so full of herself, but then he's like, okay, school teacher. She's just school teacher. He doesn't even call her by name, school teacher.
I found all of that
the lowliest job in the federal system.
I loved it whenever he kind of looked out to the audience, like beyond when he's looking into his future or he's making a proclamation or some kind. I loved it whenever he just like went there.
You talk unafraid of the king. People of Siam should talk unafraid. You make good school teacher, I think.
It's a very delicate balance to create this character who is God on earth and sees himself that way and is commander of everything he sees and around him, and he owns it all and he controls it all. But he's also super vulnerable. He's funny. He's lovable. I got to tell you, when Yul Brynner's not on screen, I don't really care about the movie.
I don't give a fuck about this movie.
Like when they get into Rita Moreno and Lo Tai or whatever his name is, like I
hate those scenes. I hate them.
It was awful sitting through them, and I'm just like, when can I get back to Yul Brynner?
I gave myself completely over to the 50s musical, looking at this movie in the way it was supposed to be. I don't love these kind of movies. And it was revealed to me as we watched it why I don't love them, because I do find myself lurching to the good moments. And there's a lurch. There's a lot of junk in between the good moments. And to me, it never crashes, but the balloon loses air. At least 3 different times during the course of the movie. I'm like, okay, I kind of don't care anymore. And then a scene would happen and Yul Brynner would get me connected again.
Yeah, that's exactly the rhythm that I was on. It's like
I thought I was done. I thought I was completely done until it got to the last scene where he's laying on the D-bed. It got me back up again, and then I actually realized that I actually cared more about the kids to a more profound way than I thought that I did. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, that scene with the children, I think the song is the March of the Siamese Children.
Oh, no. That's amazing.
That's such a strikingly amazing scene.
That's
where
fantastic. I'm just talking about the end.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the end.
I'm talking about the end of the movie. When they're like, don't leave.
Well, that connects directly to that March of the Siamese Children.
It does.
That little girl in the end, the tiniest one. I saw this interview I watched with Yul Brynner. He was talking about that the entire play in his mind is about having respect for people, and that this begins with the youngest and smallest, and that you must show as much respect to the youngest and smallest of the children. It's represented by that one girl who gives him the thing in the end. He was really, really, really big on that as like his kind of primary theme of the movie. This kind of idea of respect. And he shows it in that scene that, he commands them, but he's also a dad. He's also their dad. He's loved by all of them.
I'm going to get teary-eyed talking about this. You totally feel that he's the father of every single one of them. I mean, the
strong father.
The
strong father everyone wants and needs.
I felt a fatherly connection with every single one of them. And I'm sure...
And he showed it in a different way with each one.
He showed it in a different way, and I'm sure that intensified for the year and a half that he played it on Broadway. He got to know those kids really well. And so when every single one of them came out for performance 181 and performance 217, and it is highlighted by, it's a little jokey bit, but it's highlighted by the end, because the thing is, the youngest of them, the one that you expect the least of, because they're the youngest, they can't possibly know what's going on. They are still expected to do the presentational thing in the way that the brothers and sisters do the presentational thing. There is still,
bow before the king.
Yeah, and to do it in the right, proper way.
Yeah, he's still the king.
And he's still the king, but they also have an obligation.
Yeah.
They are not a normal 2-year-old. All right, they still have to operate. They are more is expected of them than a normal 2-year-old.
They're princes and princesses.
Yeah. But then they fuck up a little bit because they're like a 2-year-old, because they're still like and then he kind of like gives them a wink or something, and it's okay.
Yeah, like this is just pomp and circumstance. I'm doing right now. He tilts his hat that
you did well enough.
Yeah, well enough. It isn't until the two lovers go off.
Yeah.
You know, and do the I am 16 going on 17 sequence.
Yeah.
And I say that because that was the moment in the movie where I realized, oh my gosh, this is Sound of Music. Almost thematically the same thing. You have a governess.
Oh my God, you described it so perfect. The Sound of Music is a king and I with Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's a governess.
It's exactly the king and I with Nazis, right down to the kids introducing themselves scene.
Yeah, I made a list of like, okay, you've got strong female leads that are both governesses that transform their environments. There's a cultural clash and growth that's going on because you've got somebody coming from a different environment into a...
And by the way, the king of Siam is a much better father than Christopher Plummer. He's a bastard.
It's true. But he's not a Nazi.
He's not a Nazi.
The children are the catalysts. There's romantic undercurrents that are like, you know, unrequited love that shouldn't, you know, take root, but is obviously taking root. We're under these historical backdrops. Obviously, both are Rogers and Hammerstein, and especially that we kiss in a shadow scene between Lun Ta and Rita Moreno's Tip Tum. That's the I am 16 going on 17. It's like they really pulled out the same tools. To me, Sound of Music is a fully successful version of King and I.
Now I'm going to make a little It's a Gary Shandling Show reference. Ding dong. Hey, Gala, how you doing? Come on in.
Clunk, 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 clunk.
Gala, do you know who Gary Shandling is?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, I have the Gary Shandling Show on DVD. I'm about
to know who Gary Shandling is.
That was a good reference.
He's who Cheryl was married to before she was married to Larry David.
So I did not love The King and I don't necessarily think you guys did either. Like, no. I think you guys liked it and appreciated moments of it.
We like Yul Brynner.
You like Yul Brynner.
And I love his...
And I love the first 25 minutes. I love what would have been the first act. And I loved my seat that I had for that production.
For the
color.
first act.
You can't deny the color, the production design.
And you guys are watching it on a Laserdisc on a big screen, so it's going to look really good.
It looked amazing.
And I'm watching it on a tiny screen and it still looked amazing. It was the color, the matte paintings, the set design.
How about the model of the ship?
The model of the ship.
Which even itself looks like it's on a stage.
No, it looked like it, but good.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Really good.
I liked that. I
beautiful.
remember like, wow, that would be actually really cool. The curtains opening and you see that ship. All right, that would be awesome.
It was awesome.
I don't know if there's any actor that could fill this role the way that Yul Brynner has.
Lou Diamond Phillips tried, and so did, I guess, Mr. Fat tried, Chow Yun Fat.
Well, look, putting yourself into the audience of the time period. Okay, they are making this movie for the most part white Americans and white Europeans, or when it comes to Latin Americans, aristocratic Latin Americans around the world, on the planet Earth. That's who the audience of this movie is. That's who the audience of every movie was when Hollywood made at that time. But especially this audience that's like saving money to go to see a Broadway show. A sexy version of Easternness is being presented in the case of Yul Brynner. You didn't have sexy versions of Asians presented that much in popular culture. The way he's presented in that opening shot when he's sitting Indian style, all right, in that really strange, lotus position, Indian style, that he's sitting in his chair the first time you see him.
Where he's not in a relaxed position. He's in a formal resting position.
Yet he's such a panther creature that he seems like he's relaxed. All right, even though it's got to be every muscle fiber is like stretched, to sit in that position. But that's him lounging. White women watching this movie like, oh my God, they were hit. They were hit probably for the first time with an erotic feeling towards an Asian man that they maybe have never experienced before. And the movie is trading on the taboo aspect of that with this perfect personification inside of Yul Brynner. Well, that's just the time. But it's a pretty empowering portrayal. And then he pulls it off by just playing a king perfectly. Look, what's great? What's great? Great. That's why I want to be part of it. What's great about theater is you write a role, somebody plays it, and if you're lucky enough that it does well, they make that role famous. But what's really, really great about it is then it goes on and other people play the role.
It evolves.
Right?
It evolves.
It evolves.
People do their version.
Yeah. And then there's a wonderful...
Ralph Meeker does his version.
Yeah. And there's a wonderful example of that no one's described it better, I thought, than Joseph Mankiewicz. He was being interviewed about All About Eve. And so the guy who's interviewing him, originally, Claudia Colbert was cast in the Bette Davis role. And so the guy's talking to him, and he goes, wow, you really lucked out when you got Bette Davis. And then Mankiewicz is like, Joe is like, well, yes, of course I lucked out when I got Bette Davis. She's amazing, and she gives one of the best performances in any of my movies, and she gives one of her best performances. Okay, yes, you're right. But I don't agree with what you're saying that I lucked out because I didn't get Claudia Colbert. Claudia Colbert would have been fantastic. Yes, but Bette Davis, she's just owned that role. Well, of course you think that because she did a good job. Because you've
seen that.
We all did our job, and you've seen that one. So that's what you. Yes, but there's the whole Tallulah Bankhead quality about it. That's one of the things that's great about Margot Channing is she's sort of a surrogate. Tallulah Bankhead, and Claudia Colbert wouldn't have done that. That's only Bette Davis can do that. Well, yes, if you're talking about Tallulah Bankhead, you're right. Yes, that's what Bette Davis brought to it. But if Claudia Colbert would have done it, she would have brought a Gertrude Lawrence aspect to it, which would have been just as equally appropriate as Tallulah Bankhead for the theatrical quality that we were trying to go for. You have to understand, the great roles are the great roles because other people can play them. And it's not just dependent upon one actor. If you have 3 different theater productions of Hedda Gabler going on, and Meryl Streep is starring in one production in one theater, and Annette Bening is starring in another production at another theater, and Penelope Cruz is starring in another production at the other theater. The only thing those 3 productions will have in common is Hedda Gabler.
Yeah.
They're going to be 3 completely different productions because of the 3 actresses who are playing them.
Interpretation.
It's completely legitimate and perfect for other actors to play the king role. But there is a reason why in 1955 Yul Brynner won Best Actor. There's a reason why he became a phenomenon. There's a reason why because of this performance he became a movie star for the next 15 years.
For the rest of his life until he reprised
he played this role 4,625 times on stage.
Wow.
And apparently having to shave his head for this role was what gave him his signature look moving forward as an actor. The one scene that we didn't really talk about that I just have to say I really, really, really love in it, because it's like when the movie just kind of completely captivated me. And you guys mentioned the dinner sequence, but the play they put on.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! We didn't talk about it.
How did we not talk about that?
It
my God! But,
the best part of the movie.
You know why we didn't talk about it? Because it almost feels like a complete other movie.
He's exactly right. It's so fantastic. I don't even think about it when I was thinking about my problems with the film, because it's just this 20-minute section that's just perfect.
It's sublime.
I wanted to watch
sublime.
I wanted to watch that entire movie.
I'm sorry I said sublime earlier, because I should have saved it for
that sequence.
Yeah.
But isn't it remarkable that I've seen this movie before? This movie was a favorite of my mother's. This and Auntie Mame were like 2 movies she absolutely loved. And so I saw this movie as a child, by proxy. Okay, I don't remember that sequence ever watching the movie before. And then we when we started watching it, both of us were like, what is happening? Like suddenly you're in a kind of half play already.
We're like watching Mishima.
And then you pop from the half play into an actual play.
Yeah, I mean,
which makes the partial play even more like a reality that's real unto its own right. And then you're delivered, like you said, Mishima. Incredible visuals, like. The scene with the waves, the way they did the water, the ice, the way they showed the ice.
But Mishima's trying to do it. They've already created a thing that we're on stage any old way. So it's like, it's hand in glove.
And they're doing an interpretation of Uncle Tom's Cabin on top of it all.
Well, that's amazing. But they've already been doing a stage version anyway. So then when the stage version does a stage version of it, that's meta. That's like movie inside a movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they pull it off to a fairly well. I mean, it's just fantastic.
They did a research. I couldn't believe it. The images were so magical when the waves and the kind of the
snow too. And she's like,
okay, you're making me like the movie now all the more remembering
that's the confusing part about it though, is that like, again, like when Yul Brynner's not on screen, the movie kind of just deflates a little bit and you don't feel it. And then when it's that lover storyline, I could care less about that. But then all of a sudden when this play happened, I was glued, like 100 billion% of my brain power.
Fantastic.
It almost makes you think that Rodgers and Hammerstein had that idea.
Yeah, you said
and invented King and I as a way to do that.
You said that, and there might be something to it, as if like that was the tail that wagged the dog.
Yeah.
They came up with that first, and then came up with an excuse
to do it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the conceit of doing Uncle Tom's Cabin from the Siamese perspective. Wow.
For the early 50s, it's completely bold.
Yeah, it's brave. It enforces all of the ideas of human suffering. I mean, and rising above human suffering and slavery. It's wonderful.
To put it in perspective, when they do the 50s version of Showboat, they downplay all the racial shit. It's still there. Even that's like the main thing of the fucking play. But they downplay all that because they don't want to deal with that. Okay, The King and I deals with it.
Yeah, directly.
Well, and also because...
indirectly, but that's the direct part of it.
Yeah, that's the direct way.
Well, because also the play, it's the play that they put on, because it's Uncle Tom's Cabin, it's like they're talking about slavery and then how she is a slave that's reading the play and then she makes her plea to him. And then at the end, when the child abolishes slavery, essentially, it's the whole thing. It's just great.
I did like the kid playing his son. He's going to be the
his
new
oldest
king.
son.
Yeah. But I particularly like him in the last scene when he's absolutely doing the Yul Brynner impersonation.
He's tightening his entire body. He's flexing every muscle while he talks.
And his bare feet are slapping on the stage floor in the same way that Yul Brynner's feet slap on the stage floor.
And you can really feel that Yul Brynner took that kid under his wing.
Yeah.
And he made sure that kid felt like Yul Brynner when doing those scenes. Well, you know it.
Also, it's like his son is so much cooler than her son.
Oh God!
We haven't really talked about the tragic story of her son.
Well, because he shows up, and then at one point, all of his wives are like, "Where's your son? Like, we want to see your son." And she's like, "Oh, he's asleep." And then we don't really see him for like the entire movie until he's like, "Mama, it's time to board the ship."
It's one of the tragic parts of the movie is the unfulfilled arc of that boy who's been pulled by his mother to Siam, has to live under this king who is like the ultimate stepdad,
and then apparently ignored.
And in the end, when the boat is leaving, he's like, "Mom, the boat's leaving. The boat's leaving." Like, he wants on that boat.
Yul Brynner does that, like, take the boy under his wing,
Not
like you would think.
They cut those scenes.
Yeah, he's got 1,000 kids. He doesn't need a fucking new one.
No, but the wives do try to take like him in at one point, and she's like, "No, my son's asleep," and then we just never see him. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and that poor kid in the end, "Mom, the boat's leaving. The boat's leaving. Go tell the boat that we're staying."
I like. I don't like that kid at all, but I like that he has a little bit of agency at the end. He does not want to stay inside.
He wants to go back to England.
Very clear, without him making it explicit, that he wants to get on the boat.
He wants on that boat. We're gonna miss the boat. The final indignity is just go tell the captain to take our luggage off of it, and then he's gone. That's it.
That's it.
There is no completion to his arc.
He might be on the boat.
He might be
if he's smart.
While she's like going like this with her wide open arms and all the
other children,
the royal children,
kids, hundreds of children.
The King and I is available all over. I got my box, which is a CBS Fox cassette, for $4.64.
A good buy.
To hear the rest of this episode, including discussions of 2 more movies and our award winners, sign up for the Video Archives Patreon. You'll get access to full Video Archives episodes, the Video Archives After Show, exclusive merch, and more. Head on over to patreon.com/videoarchives to subscribe today. The Video Archives podcast is hosted by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary and produced by Josh Richmond and Gala Avary. Find out more about the show and get Video Archives merch at videoarchivespodcast.com. You can also find us on Twitter at Video Archives and on Instagram at Video Archives Pod.